Well, happy Monday, everyone. We're back from a nice weekend. At least I had a nice weekend. I was up in Muskoka. I'm Special Ed Milewski. My co-host, Nika Domi.
And I'm Nika. How's it going? We're back again. Filling in for James.
James is still out west, and he'll be back towards the end of the week.
Yes. So I'm here till Thursday, so I'm expecting everybody in the chat room to stick around.
Really are in the going into probably the quietest month of the year in terms of market. You know, like we got summer.
Yeah.
You know, Europe basically takes summer off. So it seems quiet. I had lunch with a CEO of Crown Mining.
Oh, really?
And you know, we do this all a lot, and he does a lot of trading. He's been around markets. He's about my age. We've been around for a long time. We're a couple of dinosaurs, obviously. He says it's as quiet as ever. Quiet as
in the mining.
Well, mining, but you know, but maybe it's not so quiet in the marijuana space. But the marijuana space has been sort of.
You know what I compare marijuana space lately? It's to that game that you whack-a-mole. So one stock pops off, the other one drops, and then as soon as it pops off, it goes back down.
Maybe that's how we should pick our stocks.
Yeah.
You know,
go practice at the local fair.
Yeah. I just saw Canopy go by down $1.60. 44 and change. We'll look at some charts later.
And we also would like to encourage everybody to leave us some comments in the chat room. Tell us what you want us to look at. What tickers are you looking at? So give us your tips and tricks. You know, help us out.
I'm not going to give you fundamental analysis. That's not my forte. I like looking at charts and patterns and looking for breakouts, breakdowns, unusual volume. We mentioned one last week. The compliments of our own Nika Domi.
I brought a ticker to the group here. Yes.
It was. You could have bought it at 275. I think Thursday night, and today it hit 360.
Yeah, it's
there you go. There's
not many
action.
people know about it. I've been telling people all this year pretty much because I've been watching them since last year, and everybody says, who's this, I've never heard of them. But you know, sometimes these hidden gems pop up and we just have to kind of trust them. You have to pick up.
So we're going to what's coming up on the show. Let's take a look. We have news with Suzanne Garcia. We have an interview with George Robinson of RavenQuest BioMed, and I'll be doing a live interview with Kirill Muggerman of GeoMega Resources. I'm looking forward to that. That should be very interesting.
Very interesting.
So let's, without further ado, let's go right to the news.
Here's what's making cannabis headlines today. Aphria Inc.'s subsidiary Marigold Projects Jamaica has received a retail herb house license from Jamaica's Cannabis Licensing Authority to open its first store in Kingston, Jamaica. The Cannabis House will have a smoking lounge for on-site consumption, high-end accessories for sale, and feature Marigold proprietary strains of cannabis and brands called Sensei Gold. Charlotte's Web Holdings announced that the Kroger Co., America's largest grocery retailer, has begun carrying Charlotte's Web products in multiple states. The grocery retailer has plans to roll out to a total of 1,350 store locations in 22 states. Heritage Cannabis Holdings Corp. has entered into a contract manufacturing agreement with Kronos Group Inc. Heritage will provide extract, fill, and package vaporizer devices for the Spinach and Peace Naturals brand, utilizing multiple proprietary formulations provided by Kronos Group. The CMA has a 2-year term with an option to extend upon agreement by both parties at an annual potential contract value of $35 million. NPX International's wholly owned subsidiary, CanVita, has received approval from Health Canada to sell cannabis. In addition to sales to other licensed producers, the amended license authorizes the sale of fresh and dried cannabis directly to medical patients, all of the provincial and territorial cannabis boards, and holders of a license for sale. Planet 13 Holdings has added Haha Gummies and Dreamland Chocolates to its brand portfolio. Haha Gummies and Dreamland Chocolates, along with Medizin, Trendy, and Leaf and Vine, will be produced in Planet 13's new 15,000 square foot customer-facing production facility located at the Planet 13 Las Vegas Cannabis Entertainment Complex. Zenabis Global announced the licensing of Phase 2C Part 1 at Zenabis Atholville. The amendment received July 26 adds 9,800 kilograms of licensed annual cultivation capacity. The amendment increases total Zenabis licensed annual cultivation capacity by more than 40%, and Zenabis Atholville licensed annual cultivation capacity from 22,300 kilograms to 32,100 kilograms of dried cannabis. And that's your news for today. If you want to keep up to date with the cannabis sector, check out Cannabis Daily at MidasLetter.com.
So Nika, how you doing?
Very, very good. We're back again.
Yeah. We're gonna take a look at some of the extractors, and
Hot topic.
yeah. Well, it seems that the ones that are performing better than some of the growers, right? Like I guess it's all you hear. It's all about extraction going forward.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know.
Oh, come on.
But no, well, these trends, I mean, okay, so the big one, I think one of the big ones is labs, right?
Medifarm Labs.
Yeah. So let's look at a chart here. We're going to look at I don't want to look at short-term charts. I'm more interested in seeing if in fact we could. The big picture, are they hanging in better? Are they near their highs? Are they, so let's just put up a chart of labs here. Okay. Well, it's $5.40. This thing you could have bought not quite a year ago.
They went fast this year, especially.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So look, down in here, this is back at the end of last year. You could have bought the stock close to, well, it got below $1 briefly, but then it had a great candle with a big tail, and then look at this trend. But then we've obviously had to correct, but we seem to be consolidating, right? So we're the high has been around 740. It's currently 540, 530, something like that.
So they have recently moved to the Toronto Stock Exchange.
Right.
So that's a big move for them. Yeah,
that tells you that, hey, if you're on a better exchange, better company.
Bigger
Because they won't, if the company doesn't meet pass certain tests, they won't even let you on.
Right.
Okay,
the next one.
Go ahead.
Neptune.
Yeah. Now, we talked about a list earlier, and these are the bigger ones, right? These are the ones by.
We're starting from the more popular,
right,
sure.
Yeah, and Neptune has been around a long time, and they're also involved in oils like
fish oils and seed
krill.
oils.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to just
Neptune, like the god Neptune.
yeah, with the guy with the spear, right?
Yeah, he's a serious god.
NEPT is this ticker.
NEPT, yes.
Okay.
They are a Quebec company.
Look at this. This is a 2-year chart. So 2 years ago, $1.20. Not that you had to sort of react, but down in here, and then great action there, great channel. Some consolidation, and then we really haven't done much here all the way through this period, and again just lately We were 340 here.
But it held up, didn't it? It held up pretty good.
Held up. I don't know if the stock's been higher, to be quite frank. So to your point, yeah, it's held up dramatically. Here it is, $7 in.
So just off of their website, they're dealing with the extraction of cannabis, purification, formulation, also specialty ingredients such as seeds. They make chewables and pet supplements of omega-3 products.
Yeah, just going back, Nika, 5 years, you can see that back in here from late 2014 to here, it was not too much is going on, but I think they started talking about getting in extraction into the cannabis space.
Yeah, see, cannabis picked
look
it
what
up.
they've done for their shareholders. So that's been a real nice ride.
Yeah.
And this company is also the company that owns a chunk of that
Acasti
yes. Pharma, which hit a new high again today.
That is my secret pick. That is something that I wanted to. It's not a secret anymore. I've really wanted to tell everybody who watches Midas Letter about this company because I'm so proud of myself that I found them. Right. They've done so well, especially in the last 2 weeks. It's really been a gem.
Yeah, and I also found out. A friend of mine, I was telling him about it. He said he has a buddy who knew about it. So I'm going to track him down and see what he can tell me.
Exactly. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's get some information for our viewers. So keep watching this
next
week.
On the list, we're gonna talk about
Valens Grow Works. I'm ahead of it.
No, that's good. That's good. You know.
Valens has partnerships, I know, with Organigram, with Canopy, for extracting their products.
I'm just bear with me here. I'll try and figure out. Okay, here we go. 370. Okay, so this company's been around since it looks like the end of 2016, and I'm going to put up a 2-year chart. A lot of volatility, but it is obviously. So 2 years ago, the low was around 80 cents, somewhere in this area here. So we've gone through legalization, and then look at these. When this thing starts to light up, it really moves. But we had some resistance. It's broken through that resistance. So we're in this area here, 370, near its highs for sure. And a lot of companies. Can't make that claim right now. Like
to go to the blue sky.
So there must be something to this where, it seems as though the when I say smart money, I'm not saying that. It looks like the money seems to be favoring extractors. But I looked at some of the other ones at the other list, and they're sort of going sideways. But let's take a look at. Let's look at
Halo.
Yeah, Halo, for instance, and this company. I mean, they're talking about. They've publicly stated a run rate. I think of about. They're going to be doing in this December roughly the equivalent of. I think the run rate at that point would be about $50 million or thereabouts Canadian, which it means they're doing about $4 to $5 million. $4.5 million a month.
And they're mostly in the U.S. and also they're doing deals in Africa.
Well, they're going to grow and and they're our sponsor, one of our sponsors.
I've heard a lot of talk about the dab tabs and the shatterizers.
Oh yeah, they're aggressive. And the more I talk to Kieran, I like the guy. I think he's a worker.
Oh yeah.
And that's what you obviously. You want, right?
Exactly.
You can't all be queens. You have to be a drone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's take a look at Heritage Cannabis. There's a lot of talk about Heritage Cannabis.
Okay, CNN. Let's do that. Let's do that right now. Okay.
Their stock. I've been watching their stock also for a while. It has kind of parked itself in like a little bit of a pause there, but lately let's see what's been happening because I haven't checked on them. There's a lot of talk about them on Twitter.
Yeah, for some reason I've got this funny. Okay, Well, I haven't been following the sector that closely day to day. Now, here's one that's really come off. This thing was up to $10, $10 at the beginning of the year. See that?
Wow.
10.
So as the other few have kind of held up, this one has been trickling down.
This has been following a definite downward bias. And is that right? It says 50. Is it? Now the name here says General Cannabis Corp. Is that right?
Do you have the right chart?
CANN.
CANN.
Oh, you know what? That's not it.
Oh, gladly. My goodness. I was like, when were they at $10?
Okay. Let me just.
Wrong one, guys.
Yeah. You know what?
Hold up a second.
I hit the wrong exchange. I should have just hit.
We'll get it straight in a minute. Extraction. A lot of companies I've noticed have been kind of making their own extraction subsidiaries, such as WeedMD has recently made the CX Industries. So I think maybe once companies realize that they can, make their own extraction, they don't have to outsource it.
Right, I'm having trouble getting this chart up.
But then
Nika.
again, which one is it? CANN?
Yeah.
Well, we could go back to that one. How about we check the next one, RTI, Radiant Technologies.
All right.
Maybe let's take a look at the ones that aren't exactly
we'll do a couple more and then we'll...
as popular out there. But again, like for example, the stock of Casti, nobody knew about it, and look what it's doing. So sometimes the ones that are not exactly...
Well, it's just because we don't know about it doesn't mean everybody...
we
somebody
want the
knows
big guys
about it.
to know about
Somebody
it.
knows about it. Like,
Exactly.
I think it's a little myopic to think that just because you don't, nobody else does.
Sometimes we have this...
Just saying.
This mere exposure effect where we're exposed to something more, we think that it's actually better, but there sometimes are hidden gems that we just have to kind of dig up, right?
Right.
We have to mine these stocks.
You know what? There was such a flurry at the end of 17-18.
So this
I see the big ones. The big ones are holding a lot better than the smaller ones. That's what I'm observing so far.
So this is RTI, which is Radiant Technologies.
And they must have some kind of technology that's. And I know they've been on the show. They've been on the show several times. Okay, and then I'll look up Pump, which is world-class.
Pump is world-class extractions, and they have a link to FSD Pharma from what I've seen on the website there. I'm not exactly sure what that link is.
Wow,
Pump.
Look at this. This has only been public.
Let's pump some pump.
Yeah. This has only been out since, looks like the end, a few months, right? So about March or April. But let me just put up
that's a one big M. M chart. Back down to where they started.
Yeah, that I don't like to see that. I think, look, you go public, you.
And that shows the excitement for extractions, right? Because if it went so nicely at the beginning, people had some kind of an excitement towards that, right?
Right. And I know they raised quite a bit of cash. We know Anthony Derkach quite well. And I know he was very excited about what they're doing in this area. So one to watch.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com.
Welcome back. Ed Milewski here. And I'm now joined by the CEO and president of GeoMega Resources, ticker symbol GMA, Kirill Muggerman.
Hi, Ed. How's it going?
Kirill, Great to have you on the show. I got to confess, I don't know much about rare earths, and I don't know much about magnets. Okay, and I know, and a lot of times when I see the word resources, I think of a junior exploration company.
Correct.
We're not talking about that here.
No, not really.
This sounds like there's some technology, some serious technology.
So GeoMega Resources definitely is not a traditional exploration company. We used to be back in 10 years ago. We discovered a large rare earth project, carbonatite in Quebec. But since 2014, GeoMega has really been focusing on how to refine rare earth elements. And so I've been running the company since 2015, and we've been trying to develop this technology that not only will take change the way we process rare earths, but we actually want to bring production into Canada. So what we've done, if you look at rare earths from that point of view, the main rare earths objective is those magnets that I brought here to show you today.
They're very hard to pull apart.
Yeah, they're very dangerous the bigger they are.
They are, eh? Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
they can snap your fingers together.
Really? So you want to produce some rare earths?
Correct.
And you, just so I understand this, and it's the process by which you're producing them that's interesting, or?
The process is very interesting, and it's as well the source. So instead of having to develop our own mine, our objective was, what we're going to do is we are going to focus on secondary sources. So rare earth elements are industrial minerals, right? Somebody buys them, makes a product out of them. What's the main product? Magnets. So I said, okay, well, if we have a magnet as a product, it doesn't come in that shape. Somebody had to make it. So when they make that magnet in this shape, you have so much waste that gets produced. Then that magnet goes into a wind turbine. This big broken magnet here is from a wind turbine. But when they disassemble a wind turbine, guess what happens? Well, that magnet has to be picked up, processed by somebody. Otherwise, it gets recycled as just a regular steel. And that's not much. That's 10, 20 cents a pound. But then when you actually recycle it for the rare earth content in them,
yes,
then the market becomes very interesting.
This is expensive stuff, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So rare earths are, neodymium is around $45, $50 a kilo, depending when. Dysprosium, $200, $300. Terbium is in $400, $500 a kilo. So it's expensive material.
When somebody says rare earths, there's only so many of them, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a finite amount based on the periodic table, correct?
Correct. So if you look at the periodic table, you got two lines at the bottom.
Yeah.
The upper one of those two is the lanthanides. But really, it's a zoom box of one square on the periodic table. So that zoom box shows you the 15, and they're almost identical chemically. So you want to try and separate them? Good luck. It's not easy.
And you told me you're only going to try and produce 4.
Correct. So the magnet is made from iron, a bit of cobalt, boron, a little bit as well, and then 4 rare earth elements: neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium, and terbium. So 4 elements.
Can you spell all those?
Yes, but don't ask me to spell it.
No. Yeah. Okay. So now you were an analyst before, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So I think I read that. So how long were you an analyst for?
3 years, 2011 to 2014. So.
And you were following this company?
My focus was rare earth elements in general. So yes, I followed this company. The brokerage firm where I was working did the IPO to take GeoMega public. So I'm very well familiar with the story. I knew the shareholders behind it. So it was a very interesting story, great project. And then they came up with the idea for a technology. And that's really what, in my opinion, differentiated GeoMega at the time from everybody else.
Do you have a scientific background?
I studied geology.
Okay.
With a very strong scientific background and not only exploration.
Right.
So I started doing research into rare earth elements from a scientific point of view in 2007.
Okay. So today, you just told me you raised some money. Mm-hmm. So your treasury is looking pretty decent.
You're pretty good, yes. So we raised money with a very specific focus on building the first rare earth processing and recycling facility in Canada. It will be the first really real facility outside of China like this, because outside of China nobody recycles rare earths. So we actually want to recycle those rare earths, use the technology to demonstrate that our technology works, generate cash flows. And for that, we need $2 million. So we raised $1.2 million. Plus, we are working right now on the debt financing with government and other institutions. So that should be that's
Okay.
very soon. And then the next thing you'll see is we are selecting as well the location where we are going to build the facility. So that's in the Montreal region, on the South Shore most likely. And it's not a big facility. You don't need a lot of place to recycle rare earths because, I mean, we are looking at processing 1.5 tons per day.
Right.
Which is not that much. But in terms of rare earth production of just those 4 elements, that's a lot. So we expect to generate around $10 million in sales per year when we start operating this facility.
You expect to generate an annual revenue of about 10 million?
Correct, yes.
And is it fair to say what do you expect your EBITDA to be, or what do you think you need? Let me put it this way: What do you think you need to break even?
235 tons per year.
And what does that mean in dollars? Is that like?
So in terms of production quantity,
at $10 million of revenue, is that 235?
No. That's 500. So basically,
okay. So if
our break-even point is roughly, let's say, 235. Once we process 235, we are good for the year, and then everything else is basically revenue. So at 1.5 tons per day, which is 500 tons per year, you get roughly $10 million in sales. Contributing margin, we published the numbers, it's approximately 24%.
Sure.
Very, very solid numbers.
And so tell me, right now you have about 100 million shares?
100 million shares, correct, 99.
And you just raised, what price did you do the financing at?
14 cents.
And did you include a warrant with that?
There was half a warrant at 20 cents for 2 years.
Right. Yeah, so I've got the chart of the company up for the last couple of years. There we go. It's on the screen, I think, behind you.
Yep.
So I'll just make a couple of comments here, but you know, this looks like you've made some progress here.
Yep.
And you joined when?
I took over as president CEO in 2015.
And you were director of the company before that?
No, business development.
Okay. So you've been okay. So yeah, if we just look at this, so you obviously based, you know, and you had a now what was that? What's the reason for that move? I mean, there's something happened there.
Yeah. So an interesting connection was we have a spin-out that we created a couple of years ago, Kintovar, which I presented here once in the studio.
Okay.
Actually twice. So Kintovar had a very large discovery, share price movement.
And what did
that's in copper.
And
so
copper.
It's a copper exploration company.
Yeah.
And because GeoMega owned at the time 25% of Kintovar, there was a lot of interest of people buying GeoMega shares because of the shares that they owned in Kintovar. So that created this spike.
Yeah.
That you mentioned there.
And I'm just looking at this now, and yeah, so it looks like, you know, we've had a good run here. You've raised some money at 14 cents, and here the stock is, it looks like 17, 18 cents, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you got to feel like you've made some progress.
Absolutely.
It's been a tough market. You know,
as tough as they get.
It's tough as they get. Yeah. Resource. I usually a general term, but resource stocks relative to everything else have never been cheaper.
Yes.
And you know, in this sort of domain that we're involved in, you know, junior exploration. I particularly like copper going forward, but I know with all that. So, what's your take on this trade stuff? With you must be following this very, very carefully.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, trade wars are.
Nobody wins, really, do they?
Nobody wins, but funny enough, rare earths, they're so politicized. Back the big run of 2010 to 2012.
Right, I remember.
It was pure politics, right? I mean, you had one country blocking the sales of rare earths to another country, the market panicking, everybody starts looking for rare earths. It was just the perfect storm, right? But it was pure geopolitical tension that triggered this. Today, the demand is much more real, in my opinion, than it was back in 2011 when I was an analyst. Today, the demand, look, you have electric vehicles, which are, I mean, every day we see more and more.
That's going to it's happening, and it's going to continue to happen. It's going to happen faster and faster.
In my opinion, there's no way we are going back to the days where we don't have any electric vehicles, right? So I think we can all agree on that.
Sure.
It's just a question of how many years it will take to get to full penetration. But then as well, we have wind turbines. Remember I mentioned this is from a wind turbine? 3 megawatts wind turbine is 2 tons of magnet inside. And you don't put one wind turbine for 3 megawatts. You put many of them. You have the entire wind farm. So how much magnet goes into all this? It's a lot. It's a huge amount. Yeah. Per year, global production is 160,000 tons of magnet. That's a lot of magnet every year.
So in your macro view, being a former analyst and you have a degree in geology or studied do you see shortages in some of these commodities developing, like copper? Like, I mean, there seems to be a lot of copper around, and yet they say there's, the grades now are not that low. The low-hanging fruit's getting picked, isn't it?
So let's say I don't follow I know some of the macros better than others. For copper, for sure, big underinvestment.
Right.
Rare earths is pure geopolitical, and the U.S. just doesn't have any. I mean, you have one mine that keeps going bankrupt every 10 years, basically. It's privately owned right now, and maybe it will go into production in full scale and will be producing for the U.S., but it doesn't look like the U.S. government is too convinced of that, because they are collecting information. Who else can provide them the same services? In Europe, there's no real rare earth production. It's all in China.
Yeah. So now you've got this money, and you're going to go into production, but I'm just looking at this saying, this looks like it's going to cost a lot of money to do this. Is it a big capital expenditure?
The $2 million that we are putting together, so 1.2 from equity, plus
some debt,
a portion in debt, we are looking at $2 million total to put the whole thing into production. It's a base model of 500 tons per year. That's enough for us to demonstrate, because until now it's a black box, right? I mean, how does it work?
But that's not the end. That's not the end game. The end game is to show you've got a process, to show you can do it, and then partner up with some big money, or
correct. So partner up with large and larger suppliers of this.
Right.
So there is end of life, and then there is primary. So waste. So primary waste is every single time you make a magnet, you make 15 to 30% waste. 15 to 30% waste is a lot, considering that you produce per year 160,000 tons.
Yeah.
So where does that all go? In China, I know that they recycle it, but outside of China, they struggle to recycle it properly. So the big model here behind this is, once it's working at the base level of 1.5 tons per day, then drive it towards 6 tons and maybe even higher. Where is it? It's in Asia. It's in Europe.
Sure.
You can go to so many countries and you'll find factories that produce magnets. That's where your material is. You just start processing it because there is a lot of material that's not being processed right now. So
one final question before we. So you're getting people paying attention here, that they're following you. They call you up and they're interested, and because technology plays. Not many great technology stories. I don't, be careful how I say it, but we're not known as Silicon Valley. Correct. Of course, we have Waterloo, and there's lots of stuff going on there. And obviously, you've had success in the labs, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look, technology is very important. The biggest problem is always in scale-ups, and you have to do it carefully. You don't want to jump too many steps. We've been doing it over 5 years. It's not like we just came up with an idea and the next thing we are trying to put a mine into production or a process into production. Right. We actually went step by step until we got comfortable with what we are doing.
Okay, Kirill Muggerman, CEO of GeoMega Resources, ticker GMA.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. Appreciate it. Now we're going to head right into an interview with the RavenQuest BioMed CEO, George Robinson.
RavenQuest BioMed is a diversified cannabis company with divisions focused upon cannabis production, management services and consulting, and specialized research and development. RavenQuest maintains a research partnership with McGill University focused on cultivar strain recognition, plant stabilization, and yield maximization of the cannabis plant. The company focuses on partnerships with indigenous communities. RavenQuest BioMed trades on the CSE under the symbol RQB.
I'm joined now by George Robinson, CEO of RavenQuest BioMed. George, welcome back.
It's always good to be back, James.
George, what's the latest? What's going on at RavenQuest BioMed? How many of those orbital gardens are spinning now?
There's a lot of them spinning right now. It's actually going quite well. Second crop's going to come off in about another week and a bit, and the COAs for the first crop should be in today, so really a great time right now.
Sure. When you say COAs, what do you exactly mean by that?
Certificate of analysis. This is what tells us how good the product was after the first grow cycle, and that's coming back now, and it should be in later today.
Great. So you're on track to produce 11,000 kilograms this year.
Well, that's the annualized production. I think by the end of the year, we'll do about 6,000 to about 7,000 kilograms by the end of 2019.
Mm-hmm. And so what's the end of 2019? Fine. But what about the end of 2020?
We'll be at 11,000 kilograms right here in beautiful Canada. And then as we look to our expansion, we're going to be much higher than that.
Sure. And is that when profitability begins for the company?
I know profitability will happen by the end of the year, this year, 2019, and then it really looks very, very nice coming the end of 2020. We're looking at about EBITDA rates of somewhere between 38 to 42%.
Well, that's great. So you're expanding your production by licensing the equipment to partner growers. Have you signed any more of those agreements lately?
Yeah, we actually are. We've done a joint venture agreement with our friends out in Norway. We'll be expanding into Portugal as our first destination. The joint venture and us will do. This joint venture will put about 1,800 gardens into Portugal in 2 locations. That'll produce about 35,000 kilograms of cannabis come 2021.
Okay, and how does the economic model work for that when you're dealing with a partner in, say, Portugal?
Yeah, it works really good. So the joint venture partner out of Norway is going to put up the money. We'll build our 2 facilities in Portugal, one just south of Lisbon and one up by Porto. And how that works is they put up all the money and they have exclusive use of our technology, and we split that 50-50. So all of the revenues coming off come at 50-50. We'll run and operate the facility with our expertise, and that's how it's going to work. And right now we're looking at about 35,000 kilos.
Wow. So 2020 is going to be very profitable by the sounds of things.
Yeah, that'll get everything started up there. Luckily, the both buildings that we're looking at in Portugal are up and they're there, so we don't have to actually break ground. It looks like construction schedules would be probably 6 to 9 months, and then we can start first production in Portugal.
You just closed on $2.5 million. Is that enough to get you through to putting all the gardens that you need in all these places?
No, the $2.5 million was actually quite strategic that we were up to. We didn't really need the money. We had some things that we were doing on a convertible debenture, and we were allowing some people to come in and take some shares in place, and that was what that $2.5 million was. Right now, we're cash flow positive. This was a more strategic event. All the money for all the gardens that are coming up outside of Canada are already going to be prepaid for by the joint venture, so no cash required, and all our facilities in Canada are built.
Sure. Now, you've demonstrated that you can actually produce more kilograms per unit of space than other growers. Tell me how that affects your the energy consumption and therefore the cost of growing as well.
Well, okay, let's start off with some basics. Right now, just on electrical power and climate control power, we use 65% less, because we use the full cubic footage of the room, and since everything's inside the drum, we have a smaller area where we have to control the climate. So power right off the get-go is 65% less. What it shows right now is anyone in a greenhouse is using about 5.5 megawatts of power for 10,000 kilos. For us, we only use 1.1 megawatts for that same 10,000 kilos. So a much better cost savings from the electrical side.
Mm-hmm. And you get an extra grow cycle relative to a conventional grow environment.
maybe 2, depending on how good the people are in the flat table environment. We get six grow cycles. Some flat table environments may get 4.5, but we're at 6 minimum.
Sure. So how does this translate into your all-in cost per gram produced?
Well, we don't always like talking about it too publicly, but let's just say right now, as we see it and how everyone else is reporting, when we use less power, less water, and less nutrients, we seemingly are about 25 to 30% less than the lowest cost producer that we see right now, different than not putting in the equation outdoor growing.
And so going forward, George, is RavenQuest BioMed more focused on the recreational or the medical market?
I think it has to be a balance in today's world. You have to look at the medical side, and definitely out in Europe, it's going to be 100% medical focused. Here in Canada, we'll have a small entry into the recreational market, but we really want to make sure that there's enough product for the medicinal market in Canada. And then as we see a draw on the provinces to ask for more recreational cannabis, we'll take a look at that. But right now, we're going to put about 80% of our product into the medicinal market.
Wow, fantastic. George, that's a great update. Let's leave it there for now. We'll come back to you soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks again for chatting.
Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you've more or less delivered on.
Here are the headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
and I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really.
Recreational cannabis is here. It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits.
Well, we're back again. Lot of interesting things going on. This company, GeoMega Resources Inc., GMA. These are the kinds of things I like, because this is a different kind of company. This is you know, technology. This is if they get if somebody gets something like this working, the cash flows can ramp up dramatically.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So I noticed there's a few stocks doing quite well today, and there's a bunch that are. There doesn't seem to be any unanimity of opinion. Try to say that 5 times.
Yeah.
Weeds down $1, trading at 44.24. I got the chart up here. You know, it's the biggest one, but boy, I'll tell you, it looks like, just quickly. And that's a 2-year chart.
I'm personally very excited to find out what they will do about their CEO, who they will put in.
There was a top, and then
think
a little bit lower. This is a little bit higher, but then it fell off. Clearly, major move, you know, over the last couple of years. A lot of money we made, but it seems to be flattening out. Like this trend.
Yes.
This trend is becoming this trend, and what we don't want, or you know, ideally, I mean, if you own a stock, you don't want it to be rolling over and breaching some kind of line. And again, when I draw these lines, they're not perfect lines. I'm just sort of drawing them.
Yeah, just to get an idea of where things are going. But I think, you know what, it's all Bruce. I think it really is. You know, a lot of people like him. A lot of people trusted in him.
Sure.
And once you remove a figure like that, it's you know, it's where do we go from here, right? So everybody's probably just looking for the next news and to see where the company is positioned for the future.
Yeah, there's one of the news items that we just talked about, and I got a correction to make on an earlier chart with CANN. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
We'll get
that was not the right chart.
No, I had the wrong chart, and I apologize to management. So Charlotte's Web Holdings.
Yeah, one of our viewers actually mentioned also to talk about, well, not just one, a few people mentioned about Charlotte's Web. So I see that today they had a nice gap up in the morning because of the news. I think they started at 19, just like a high 19, and right now 21.74.
I'm going to put the chart up.
That's a well-respected company. A lot of people know their brand, so it's
well. Look at the
well
stocks.
branded.
The stock's up $1.50 today, so it was like you say, 19.90. And here it is, But what I wanted to say, I when I was younger, I spent a lot of time in the Detroit area visiting relatives. Kroger's is a monster outfit. Like if you got Kroger's packing your products, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. That's why this stock's acting probably so well.
For quite a while.
Hey, look who's here!
James,
visitor from the West, special visitor.
I like that shirt.
Thank you. I like your outfit too, Nika. You look fabulous today.
Yeah. How are you for a Monday? Thought it'd spice it up a little.
Exactly. Put a smile on everyone's face and brighten up that
We
market.
can compete with shirts.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Well, you might win for obvious reasons, but
no.
He's going to give you a run for his money, I can tell you.
Yeah. Anyways, so you guys watching what's going on in the market here? There's been some really big announcements in terms of the whole retail side. Not just Charlotte's Web announcing that they're going into 1,350 Kroger stores in 22 states, but Fire and Flower's got shareholder approval to do that deal with Alimentation Couche-Tard, who are the owners of the Circle K brand, which are over 2,100 stores across Canada. They've got drugstores, they've got convenience stores. I mean, you look at these things in totality, and these constitute, a major shift in where cannabis products are going to be available, at least in terms of CBD products, in that we've got some really giant names in the retail space now coming into the market in a big way. So I think that we might be just around the corner looking to see the effect of these big retail participants on the balance sheets of these cannabis producers who are lucky enough to have those agreements. So I think this could be one of those sector-wide catalysts that actually reverses the general trend, which has been, a slow downward drift across the summer. It could actually start to push the whole thing in the other direction, which would make all of us who are long cannabis stocks warm in the heart.
Yeah, we wouldn't have long. Our faces might be not so long if the cannabis stocks started moving higher.
Yes, well, that would be our hope. There's a lot of companies out there that are making moves towards that direction. Our very own sponsor, Halo Labs, is becoming more and more available in more and more places in the 3 states that it's operating in, and I think that we can safely say that they're going to be looking for opportunities in other states. I mean.
Okay, bit of reception problem here, but I wanted to say that it looks like there's a vote coming up in December. Is it
November 7th? I think
November 7th, and
Don't
another.
quote me on that.
How many states are going to try and get legalized here?
November 6th, and 7 U.S. states to vote on cannabis. It's Michigan, Oklahoma, Missouri, North Dakota, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Utah.
There you go. Yeah. So it's happening. It's happening more and more, isn't it? Now,
well, it's going to be interesting, if all of these states collectively decide to legalize cannabis for this and that reason, then federal deprohibition won't actually exist, regardless of what the federal government thinks, because it'll be legal in every state. And then what are they going to do? Doesn't that make it federally deprohibited?
I know, but they'll still have problems moving it across borders, though, right? Is that why the federal law has to be on site as well? And I don't know that for sure. I'm just saying.
But that's a good point.
Yeah,
if all the states are on board.
Sure.
Yeah,
it remains to be seen. You're seeing more and more noises from presidential candidates like Kamala Harris, for example, has said that if elected, she will decriminalize cannabis, deprohibit it federally, and expedite its incorporation into the American pharmacopoeia wholesale. So that's one Democratic presidential campaign that's quite credible who has said that. And I won't be surprised if you see candidates from both sides in the United States start to make that an election platform.
Yeah, well, what about if Trump starts to think he's missing out on something and decides to make it legal before the election?
Trump's been positive about it all this time, I've heard, Yeah,
well, I personally, I think that one of the great things that Donald Trump could do for his own mental capacity is to smoke some weed, and then for sure he'll legalize it. Because he'll be like, oh, wow, this is groovy. The United States needs to be more groovy. Let's legalize this.
For sure, for sure.
Agreed.
And since I'm in the United States right now, I just came from the local cannabis store in Yachats, Oregon. Yachats is a small town on the south central coast of Oregon, and there's one dispensary in town. And I bought some CBD tincture that was supposed to be 20-to-1 CBD to THC, and I can tell you that it was not what we would call a premium quality.
Is that
so? My whole family here tried it, and we were unanimous in that this stuff is bunk. So there's still quite a great opportunity for. Oh, look who it is! This is my co-host. Come here, Watson. Come here.
Oh,
this is Watson.
Oh my goodness.
Watson is
Where's
Panda
Watson?
Shepherd. Watson, can you get up here? Come here. Get up here. Watson. Oh, well, anyways, he's not cooperating. He's a big Panda Shepherd, but he's camera shy.
Sure. Well, he's probably never been on camera before.
Well, and he still hasn't ever been on camera because he won't cooperate.
You know, James, I'm sitting here today and I notice weed's down $1.40, but then there's others like Hexo's up, C-Web's up. They don't seem to be moving all the same yet.
Well, that's true. That's true, Ed.
Cure Leaf's up 41 cents. Afria is trading around $7. Yeah, still kind of like, you know, we're not seeing that. And I know we hopefully some of this stuff in the U.S. starts to turn, and we get a lot of momentum going forward.
Yeah, well, as of this moment, right now, the Canadian large cap index, the Midas Letter large cap cannabis index, is down 1.85%. The Midas Letter small cap index is down 1%. Midas Letter venture cannabis index is down 1.76%. But the Midas Letter CSE index, probably as a result of Fire and Flower, although Fire and Flower is on the TSX Venture, isn't it? But certainly Charlotte's Web is affecting the CSE, and it's up 0.08% at this time. So it'll be interesting to see whether the momentum to the upside starts to lift the whole sector. Typically, it's going to take more time for these big announcements to sink in, and analysts and brokers and wealth managers to advise their clients that, hey, maybe it's time to start loading up the truck again on select names that have these great retail relationships building, because the chances that they're going to be profitable sooner rather than later are obviously enhanced by giant retail distribution deals.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. But it certainly seems like cannabis is going to be here with us for a long time.
Boy, I'll say I'm going to go smoke some right now.
Good for you. Good for you.
All right, you guys, thanks for having me on, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, thanks, James.
Take a toke for us.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah, I want to. Earlier we were talking about some stocks in the extraction, and I got a couple companies mixed up, and I want to make a sincere apology to the management of CANN, because for some reason I didn't know what the proper.
It just didn't pull up the right chart.
Yeah, no, but I'm going to do.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that now.
Sure. Let's look at the famous can.
Yeah, because they've got news here that they're doing something with Kronos, right?
Yes, there was a deal with Kronos.
There we go. That's right. So here's a 2-year chart, and we started off here quite a bit higher, but it is. So we started there, got to here, corrected, and now looks like we're attempting. Although in the last few days we have dropped from about 60 cents down to about 50 cents. But this is not the chart that we had up earlier that suggested this company dropped from about $10 down to 50 cents.
$10.
Yeah, the highest it's been is about 80 cents.
70
it looks like.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, in that range. So big apology there. Okay, and so here, Heritage enters supply agreement with Kronos Group, the dated today.
Yeah, and Kronos Group is definitely a big one.
Well, they got tons and tons of money, and when it comes down to it, to survive, you got to have the cash.
Got to have the cash.
Because nobody takes marijuana, cigarettes as currency yet.
There was some of our viewers actually have mentioned also that since we were talking also about earlier the edibles, so there's a company called Gabriela's Kitchen. So one of our viewers mentioned they were interested in checking out that company. The ticker is GABY. Do you mind if we maybe do that?
No, let's take a look. Let's take a look right now. I just have to.
I've heard about them before from some of the members of our WhatsApp group, and so they're at 37
GABY?
cents. Yes, Gabi. They're on the CSE.
All right, we've got that chart here for you. I'm going to put up a 1-year chart because that's as long as it's been trading. And, it started off, as a lot of these do, when the markets were a little more buoyant. There we go.
I want to pull up exactly what they do so we know what they are about.
So certainly big support here in the looks like 25 and a half range or in that area. We've been higher, but it looks like it's just bumping along here. Now we did break out a little bit there, and we didn't come as low. So, there was a nice candle here today. Maybe this is a start of a trend.
From their website, it says Gabi is an innovative cannabis and CBD house of brands with dual channel, selling into the licensed cannabis channel and the mainstream grocery channel. So they are definitely an edibles, focused on consumer packaged goods.
Right.
Hemp-infused products, cannabis-infused products, with relationships in over 3,400 retails in the mainstream sales channel. So, yeah, that's a little bit about them.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so there's that one.
Yeah, you know what? It seems like from where I sit, and again, I don't know the industry as well as James and some of our guests, obviously, but it seems where I'm at, like the U.S. is going to be moving ahead of Canada in the edible, like they're allowed to do things.
Because
we can't do anything.
They have more allowances. Yes, they're allowed to.
Well, each state runs their own little regulatory department as it relates to what can or can't be done. Mm-hmm. But probably also means that there's going to be a real range of quality. Because like James just said, he went in Oregon and bought some product.
So quantity doesn't always mean quality, right?
Do you want quantity or do you want quality?
Yes. I actually wanted to take a look at something I found on the Government Canada website, and I found this really interesting.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
If we could pull up my screen, that would be good. This is called Cannabis Demand and Supply. So sometimes if we go into these different websites and just to do our due diligence, we can find out so much information. For example, here from this website, they have these very nice and easy to read charts. So for example, this one here talks about total inventories and sales, and this is just for Canada. This is for dried cannabis.
Sure, this is just one, this is not...
So dried cannabis, for example, so this is about the supply. So from October 2018 to May 2019, so that's the few months here, it shows us the finished inventory, which is the dark green areas, the unfinished inventory, which is one that's not packaged yet, and then the sales line. So the purple, you'll see the sales. So it looks like the inventory has gone up significantly since October.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
More and more people producing.
But then the sales we see are pretty steady. They did increase in May, so there is quite an increase in the last 3 months. But the supply is pretty large, right? I'm going to go here. This is oils, so it compares oils now. And same thing, finished inventory in the dark green, unfinished and sales line. So again, the sales of oils pretty steady, a little bit of an increase.
So we're not getting like a real ramp up in revenues,
that.
are we? That's what this is saying.
I would say so, that the sales are pretty steady, but look at the increase of the product. Yeah.
Which may means, there may be some implications here. You're not going to believe this, Nika, but we've run out of time. And
I never believe it. It's 4 o'clock.
I know.
I'm
before we
so
go,
much
we
fun
have to say hello to our sponsor, Halo Labs. HALO is the ticker on the NEO exchange.
And HaloCanna.com is their website.
HaloCanna.com, right there.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
We'll be back tomorrow.
Come back for more.